Hi, Amanda. Welcome to my podcast. And I'm very grateful you want to record one with me. Myself, I'm on the Tantra journey for, I think, 2 years now. And I met you on the Tantra Festival. And I went to your Gatsby event and I loved it.
Mm.
And yeah, I'm curious how Tantra started to be part of your life journey. And yeah, maybe you can tell more about who you are for the people who don't know you and what you do exactly as a coach also.
Yeah, yeah, first of all, yeah, just allowing this new space to be here. I feel like one of the biggest pieces in Tantra in general is becoming present with the moment. So
Mm.
noticing that there is a moment of transition from us dropping in as two beautiful beings to us dropping into the podcast. And Tantra, wow. Yeah, so my background actually started as a yoga teacher. So I was living in California. That's where I'm from, teaching yoga. And I had been traveling to India for several years to learn with my teachers there. And I loved yoga. Yoga was the first way of me really meeting my body in a way that was also spiritual. So it was the first time that I felt energy running through my body. It was the first time that I remember laying in Shavasana and emotions were able to touch me deeply. And I had been on this yoga path for about 4 or 5 years.
Mhm.
And I felt that there was a part of me that was missing. So there was like, okay, I'm feeling more whole, I'm feeling more connected, but there's something that's missing. And I didn't really fully know what that was. And then one year on my trip to India, I came across Tantra. I came across Osho and started reading some of Osho's books. One of them in particular, if anybody in the audience is interested, it's called From Sex to Superconsciousness. And there was the moment that I found that there was this path of sexuality that was also connected to my spirituality or could be connected to spirituality. It was almost as if all the lights went on in my system. And I became really aware that, ah, okay. So I'd been pushing away this part of myself because on the yoga path or the spiritual path or the Buddhist path, I studied all different types of Eastern religions and philosophies. Nobody really talks about sexuality.
Yeah.
And yet we're all here because of sexuality. Like we wouldn't be able to be here if sexuality wasn't it. So why are we denying a very core aspect of our being? And yeah, it was through me starting to open up to Tantra and to understanding what Tantra was that I felt like all of me finally had a place to be. All of me finally had a place to exist. I can be spiritual and I can be sexual. And
Mm.
before Tantra, I didn't really think that those two things really existed. It didn't occur to me that there was a huge separation until the moment I realized that there was a huge separation. And so, yeah, I found Tantra through India. And I went through many different courses and trainings and workshops and read many, 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 many books. And yeah, from then on, my life has never been the same.
Beautiful. And you said, yeah, it looks like it's integrated, but there is a split in it, sexuality and spirituality. And but I also see it in people they're not spiritual. Sex is for in the bedroom. There's a lot of shame on it. If you, as a woman, talk about it freely, you're, for example, slut shamed, or they make assumptions that you have sex with everybody, no matter what. And but we are also programmed from the porn industry, and for me, that's not about sex. It's like we are being programmed and framed to feel more shame, equal the man as the woman.
Mhm.
And something in me is like wondering, okay, why is it that our sexuality is suppressed, and why are our bigger companies involved in it to suppress it and evoke more shame about it?
Yeah. So is there a question there? Like the question is, why is our society
Yeah. What?
embedded in shame?
Yeah. Yeah. Why is it? It's hundreds of years, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a huge question. And I feel that to truly answer that, I mean, you have to look at where the power lies, right? So in general, sex is power.
Mhm,
And it's oftentimes been used for many, many years to have
mhm.
someone else.
Yeah.
And without getting into this whole story or conversation of the patriarchy, and I think that's a whole
No.
nother
Yeah.
conversation for another time.
Yeah.
I think in general, the question for self is like, where have we allowed our power to be given away or to be taken?
Yeah.
And when you start to become sexually conscious and you start to connect to this part of you, you take your power back.
Yeah.
And so if other people are slut shaming or are creating all of these stories about you and your sexual experience, but you are the one that knows your truth, and all of those things, everything is vibration. So
Mm.
those types of people or those types of media or that type of community is no longer going to be actually in your vibrational field because you've reclaimed your power. It's like, wow, there's so much compassion for all of the humans who have shame around their sexuality because it's one of the greatest gifts that we've ever been given. And I have so much compassion for a world who is still in so much contraction around potentially one of the deepest forms of intimacy we have available to us. Not
Yeah.
only a place where you can meet yourself deeper, but you can meet your partner deeper and you can meet spirit deeper.
Mhm.
And there's so much conditioning, many people would say it started with the church because the church had the power and they wanted you to submit. But the question really, I feel like, is okay, who cares about what happened?
No, it
What are
doesn't.
we doing today in order to reclaim our power, such
Yeah.
as having conversations like this on podcasts that maybe will wake some people up to an understanding that there's so much more.
Yeah, I think we're all on a journey of growing in consciousness, but also on self-empowerment on all levels. I think sexuality is the most intense one, who triggers most deep things. It was my experience and still is sometimes. And but also because it's so intimate, if you really go into intimacy with another human being, and yeah, parts of you that are wounded will come up. And how do you help people who are coming to you to open up more and to be present more with the wounding that's coming up in intimacy
Hmm.
or couples? Mhm.
Yeah, it's a beautiful question. Um, so it depends on first and foremost where the wound comes from, or whether it's something from their past, if it's trauma informed or like trauma, an experience of trauma from past experiences, or if it's more social conditioning. Both can be traumatic. If you're working with a Mormon who's been completely repressed from their sexuality, that can be potentially just as traumatizing as somebody who's been sexually abused. It just depends on how it registers differently in the system. The first thing is just helping someone come back to their body and helping someone access or re-access that experience inside themselves in a safe container. And then also getting really so there's multiple ways. There's through body work, tantric body work, like bringing people back into an experience where they're held in a safe container and they can feel the memories coming back into their body. Many people have actually also had experiences that they don't remember. There have been sexual harassment or abuse, oftentimes can go in a compartment that is so deep and so buried that many people don't even realize they have sexual trauma until they start working in this field or, wanting to develop in this field. And then all of a sudden, all of these things and memories and experiences come back from past.
Yeah.
So really creating safe spaces, whether that's physically or through online, if I don't have the opportunity to be there with someone where they can talk about these things, go back to these memories in a safe space, feel these things. I personally work a lot with rituals and creating rituals to help people energetically shift and change and move some of the pain, the trauma, the stagnation, the energetic blockages that are preventing them from really stepping into where they want to be in relationship with their body and their sexuality. So there's no like one size approach. And then depending on where someone is, also giving them the tools to work with themselves sexually. Because once you accept what's happened, or you accept the blockages that have been there, or the distortion or the addiction or whatever it is, once you kind of work with that and accept that as a part of you and learn to love that part of you as best you can, then the question is, okay, so what can I do to start to change it? And giving men and women tools to rewrite their connection to their body through sexual practices, sacred sexuality practices that help them reclaim their pleasure. I mean, yeah, that's a whole journey in and of itself. So it's kind of like steps depending on where someone is at on their practice.
Yeah, beautiful. And I did a course a few years ago, and it was more like the classical tantra. You work with the Bindu points and energetically, mostly, and you got a lot of theories about it. And you have the neo tantra that also really involves really sexuality and practice it. Can you tell me the difference between those two, and why we see here in the Western society a lot of neo tantra?
Yeah, great question. And thank you for bringing the difference between those two in. So classical Indian Tantra, Tantra from India in general, is more working with the energetic systems. Like Tantra Yoga is just working with the chakras. And as you mentioned, the Bindu points, or the Sushumna, the energetic column, really understanding that energy is what's creating everything. So classical Tantra works with breath, works with mantras, works with sound and visualization, in order to really work and cultivate our sexual energy through just the energy channels and consciousness and focus and breath work. And Neo Tantra is really about integrating, okay, once we've connected to our sexual energy and realize that it's not just our body, and it's definitely not just our mind, which is what we're often seeing on porn, like, yeah, that is very mind focused. Neo Tantra really works with the physical body as well. So this is one of the reasons why I really love Osho. There are two main teachers who brought Tantra back into the West. And one of them is Osho from India, and the other one is Mantak Chia. And Osho has a really beautiful way of taking these spiritual concepts and grounding them into our now today's society, where he did this a lot with meditations, where once upon a time we would sit and we would meditate for a long time in stillness, but then he looked at it and said, that's not where we are actually in society today. There's so much things, distractions, energy coming into us, that in order to get someone to a space of stillness so they can really receive the channel or the energy or the connection to spirit, we need to get them into their bodies first, because they're spending so much time not in their bodies. So he created something called dynamic meditation, which is a new way of integrating and getting to these states of higher consciousness. Where I feel like Neo Tantra, he also was kind of the initiator of Neo Tantra as well. And of course, us in the West have taken Neo Tantra, or taken Tantra from him, bringing it in and changed it and evolved it. So Neo Tantra is for people who say, okay, yes, people want consciousness, and yes, people want a higher state of being and an elevated state of being, and they want to work with their sexual energy. And we're also very human, and we're also very primal, and we also really love sex. So how can, instead of it just being conceptual and theory based and kind of what they call white tantra, how can we bring it into practical and reality based, where if you're a human between the ages of, I don't know, 15 to 50, chances are you're going to have sex, and you're going to want to have sex, and it's going to be a primal need and desire. So how can we take consciousness and actually integrate it into our sexuality and create experiences for people that are more practical? And this is really Neo Tantra. So bringing it into practical, relational, and still spiritual form for people to digest and take into their everyday life.
Yeah, thank you for the explanation. I think it will clear up a lot of stuff, and also helps people to choose what path they want to walk first, or just only. because some people are very free in sexuality and want to explore, and they are spiritual and do spiritual practices, but this is their most main goal. And the other hand are more to themselves and don't want to share yet, or not at all, and go more in the energetics. So beautiful, thank you. It will help. A question popped up, but it slipped my mind after. Oh yeah, the sexual sexuality for me, sexual energy or sacred energy exchange. For some people, I talked about it with my friends, and they say, "Yeah, but if it's sacred and you have sex, even though you open your heart and tune in with more people, like in a temple night, how does it stay sacred?" Can you tell me your view on that?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's two things that come to mind. The first thing is your intention.
Mm-hmm.
Your intention, it creates everything. I mean, your intention, how you as an individual sovereign being are choosing to engage in life and in sexuality is going to determine the context of what you're receiving in an energetic exchange on the reverse end. So your intention to make something sacred or to make something more rooted in something deeper than just a physical exchange, first and foremost, will shift everything. When you create an intention with yourself, you're setting out an energetic vibrational frequency that then you're going to be in spaces where other people are meeting you at that frequency. And this is essentially what a temple is. And of course, you may get the one or two random people who just want sex. But in my containers, in my experience, we call in amazing humans. And these are humans who have the intention to go really deep in sexuality. These are humans who have the intention to make, first and foremost, a connection with themselves, to really tune in and feel into where am I today? What do I need today? What do I desire from my interaction with the humans around me today? Can I really feel myself and keep tuning into the truth of each and every moment to see where I can meet myself and then in turn someone else deeper? And so this is a main piece, and also the space that you are in, whether you're making love with someone in your house, like what can make it sacred? When you have someone over, put on beautiful music, be intentional about the lighting, light candles, have an altar, have an intention for why you're choosing to make love to someone. And this is all of what we do inside the temple. That in a temple, it's this bigger space where we're all coming from a deeper place, because we don't just want body to body connection. It's not even about sexual energy. And yes, sexual energy can be the medicine that can take you deeper, but it's about you meeting yourself deeper through the eyes and experiences of those around you. And sometimes that's going to be in a major contraction and a major trigger and like a major judgment. Beautiful. In Tantra, we welcome everything. So all of you is welcome. Your anger, your frustration, your projection, your tears, your orgasms, this is what makes Tantra so beautiful. And this is what I believe in my own experience, what makes it sacred, your intention and the space that you're choosing to be in.
Yeah, beautiful said. I would have a temple night celebration past Saturday, but the organizer called in sick, so he canceled everything. But in what you explained, I was like, okay, temple, playtime, but I really wasn't in the mood for playing, and I was like, oh God, and I was really in a contraction and inner conflict, and in the week coming to Saturday, and on Friday I was like, okay, but if I just want to cuddle or have a nice chat, I can have it. If I just want to crawl against somebody and my inner child wants to cry, let it. And but it was really a journey in myself to was like, oh yeah, that's temple space too. And drop in it. And the moment I dropped in it and I was busy with my hair, my outfit, yeah, it canceled. But really it was all right, and I was just joining myself in front of Netflix at night, and I went dancing the next morning. But really, it's yeah, just to enhance that it's not always about sexuality. It's like also connecting on a deeper level. And yes, of course, there is some juiciness, and there can be a lot of juiciness, and but it's also all right to not anticipate in it if you don't feel like it, and speak out your needs, and be held in it. And I think a temple is a space where everybody is aware and carries themselves and each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. You have an online course. A mutual friend participated in it, and it's for couples.
Mhm.
And I had a question from a friend like, yeah, but I'm in my relationship. I want to dive into tantra, but I want to do it with my partner. Um, can you tell something about the course? What they can expect if they want to participate in it?
Yeah. So the course is called Deeper Intimacy.
Mm.
And we really created it for women and men, couples. It could be women and women, men and men, doesn't really matter. But we created it for couples, first and foremost, who maybe don't live in the Netherlands, where we're doing all these amazing, beautiful things. And also maybe for people who aren't yet ready or willing or even desiring to be in group spaces. Maybe one of their partners is, but the other one is like, I don't want to do that. Or maybe they're both like, yeah, I really just want to deepen with you, and I don't really want to go to a group space, or maybe your work schedules with the kids and everything, you don't have the time. So Deeper Intimacy was created so that people could allow themselves to go deeper into intimacy with each other using tantric practices that you would potentially find in a course, in a temple, in a journey, in a retreat, but from the comfort of your own home. So each like date night, it's basically 10 date nights.
Mm.
And we all know, if you've been in a long-term relationship for a while or you have kids, like life is busy. It can be hard for you to make time to continue to be intimate with your partner. So actually creating some sort of a structure and some sort of a commitment to saying, okay, baby, I know life is busy, but you know what? We invested in this program. We want to go deeper. We want to change our patterns around sexuality, because oftentimes we can also get into patterns in sexuality where it's more about you do this, I do this happens, and then we go to bed, you know? And we really want to change all of that and shift all of that and create a new space for you to explore each other in. So the first thing is creating and committing to date nights, putting the date nights on the calendar and saying, okay, we're going to get a sitter, or we're going to, clear our calendars or do whatever we can. And we're going to explore something different, not just go to dinner and have a glass of wine and have sex. Like, no, we're going to do something very different. And we're going to commit to this for the next 10 experiences, 10 nights, 10 date nights. And every date night, you're given tantric practices, which in the beginning seem very basic, and then they become more deep. But they shift the way that you show up in intimacy in everyday life. So the practices that we use at the beginning are things that you're going to be able to integrate into your everyday relating with your partner that will deepen the amount at which you can see and feel and meet and experience each other. And then we go deeper into things like sacred yoni worship. Mm-hmm. How many of your listeners, I'm curious if they can tune in, do you really feel that your yoni has been worshipped? Not licked for pleasure, not trying to make her orgasm, but really, truly somebody sitting at the portal of your yoni in divine, utter worship and reverence, as if this is the temple of life, because it is. Mm-hmm. These are, and we also do it with cock worship as well, or lingam worship. Like, this is what tantra is about. It's changing the idea that it's goal oriented to give you an orgasm, or him an orgasm, or whoever an orgasm. And it really changes your whole perspective on how you can be intimate and see and connect to your sexuality with your partner.
Yeah, beautiful. And especially I had one worship and exchange also at the Tantra Festival, not in your workshop, but at one of the temple nights.
Yeah.
And it was so beautiful, and really I felt so vulnerable, and I really was touched. I had to cry, and but also the other way around. It was so beautiful, and he said to me, wow, I've never been touched like this before, and that somebody is just so present and loving. And I think it's honoring who we are, and we are a sperm seed and an egg, and combined together, and that's how we are created. So in the core essence, we are sexuality, and to honor that, and see beyond the physical body and beyond the programming of the mind, but just be with the God in front of you, or the God with the goddess in front of him. And beautiful. So thank you for sharing. And earlier, when you started, you were a yoga teacher and you were missing something. Most people, like even like me, but on the spiritual path, are missing something. They want to feel deeper. They don't know. They can't touch it. Where was the first time in your life you felt that there was something missing, or you had to search, go deeper in yourself, or change things uh,
Mm.
and to get more in touch with yourself?
Do you mean like what kind of put me on the spiritual path
Yeah.
in the beginning? Yeah. So I had always been, yeah, I'd always been slightly different than like where I was. There was always a part of me that was, many people would often say I'm wise beyond my years, even when I was a very young child. So there was always a part of me that was very inquisitive and wanting to go, and I would go deeper inside myself, and I would read a lot, and I would yeah, do a lot of internal investigations. And I remember being in college. I was 19, maybe 18, 19. And I was out, people were partying, like all my friends were out partying. And I remember one time going out partying, and this was like a few times this happened. And then I would come home, and somehow I felt more alone than if I would have just stayed home and been with myself. And I'm like, how is that possible? Like, how is it possible that I feel more alone now than if I, like, having gone out and connected with everybody and did what everybody else was doing that seemingly had a great time?
Mm.
I feel more alone than if I would have just stayed at home and been with myself. And I remember that was a huge moment for me, being like, what the heck is actually happening? And what am I doing? And is this really what I want to be doing? And this was a pivot point for me because I changed everything from that moment. I decided to quit drinking, and this was at 18, 19. And who at 18 and 19, when everybody's going out doing that, like decides to quit
I was still
drinking?
drinking. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like I'm like there. I don't meet many people, but it's like you lose all your friends when you stop drinking and you stop smoking and you stop partying. And I would remember being like, hey, like, does anybody want to come over to my house? I'll cook you some food. We can like hang out and talk. Real intimacy, of course. I didn't know it back then that that's what I was craving, was real intimacy, but yeah. So that was kind of the moment for me. And then I started meditation. And then I found yoga. And then it's just been a constant quest to go deeper and deeper ever since. Yeah, those moments.
Okay, you said also you felt off. Yeah, something popped up when I was sick around, I was 18 years old and I had a flu, but it kept on going. And I was 5 weeks, including the Christmas holiday, but off sick, and they didn't want to do anything anymore. And my friends were going out, and I didn't feel like it. I was still drinking sometimes, but I didn't want to go to the festivals anymore with a lot of drugs. And so I had a similar, I wanted to watch a movie, so not very intimate. I was scared of deep intimacy, of course, but just more in the home setting, and less people. And so, yes, a little bit closer, but it took me a few years to really enhance that. And then I had chronic fatigue syndrome. So I was really, like, the universe was saying, okay, you're going to sit still now and you go inwards. So
Yeah. Yeah.
was a beautiful when I look back, a beautiful lesson and gift. But at the moment, I really hated it because I lost all my friends. And I I recently, I think a year ago, I ran into one of the friends I didn't see anymore, and she's on the yoga pod and now also on the tantra pod. And it
Mm.
was so nice to see. And at the tantra festival, I saw her sister, but it also brought up a lot of yeah, suppressed grief that I felt left behind by them because I was so tired I couldn't come. And but they were going on, and then they didn't feel like coming to my house every week because I was tired. So but I really could heal it to reconnect with them, and it was beautiful.
That's
um,
really beautiful. I think it's,
yeah,
I think in general, these little moments in life where it feels like it's the worst thing ever
yeah,
does really truly feel like the worst thing ever. But it's little signposts that spirit
yeah.
is really guiding us into to a deeper place inside ourselves, that it's almost like we wouldn't have been able to get there if it wasn't. And for everyone, it's different. For some people, it's sickness. For some people, it's heartbreak. For other people, it's just, it's always different. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And burnouts are also like a sign for a lot of
Yeah.
people, or other people are getting a really severe disease like cancer, or it doesn't matter, or they get a divorce. And it's always an invitation, yes, of course, to feel deeply at the moment and process everything. But when I look back at my life, I wouldn't be the coach for people I am now if I didn't have the chronic fatigue syndrome. I would be a teacher still. And
Mhm.
even when I look at my kids, it's good that I was a teacher for a few years because they had to be in a different school because they're also different, thinking about very deeply, reflecting, feeling
Mm,
very deeply, and learning um, faster but different from top down, not bottom up, like the school system. And
mm.
so it's really like everything is falling into pieces. If you want to look back and learn and reflect, what did it brought me, and what can I do with it now? So yeah, that's what I hope to inspire people with. So everything, if you're going through a hell right now, it's all right, but and try to see the gift in it, even if it's years later.
Yeah.
Uh,
And maybe and go there. Like Tantra is about feeling. So
yeah.
go there, let yourself be in that space of pain or grief or sadness or suffering, and call upon your friends, whoever's there to support you while you're journeying through it. Because we all have those portals. I
Yes.
know that. I think we all
Yeah,
do.
and it's a journey of letting people go. Like you said, when you are in a certain vibration, you attract certain people that match that vibration. But you also will have to let go of people that are not a match anymore. Sometimes you will choose it. Sometimes it's spontaneously goes. And did you experience that for yourself? Clients of me or listeners, they and when they start the spiritual path, often ask me, yeah, but yeah, I feel my friends don't fit anymore, but I don't want to let them go because otherwise I'm very alone. And I had a period of being alone, and I have now lovely people around me. So
Mhm,
that's my
mhm.
story. But do you have a story about that or an experience?
Many times. Many, 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 many times. Like many times. And it still happens today.
Yeah.
It still happens today where as I, like when you choose to say yes to your path and your truth, you will be shifting. It's a never ending journey. You're never at a destination. You really understand that where you are, especially, it's like we call, it's, there's a term used called expanders. And if you're an expander where you're constantly doing your inner work and you're constantly deepening inside, you will continue to shift and
Mhm.
your growth will be rapid sometimes. And you will realize that you no longer fit
Mhm.
in the place that you were fitting. And it doesn't mean it's wrong or bad. And it doesn't mean that you're right and they're wrong. And it doesn't mean none of that. It just means that like there's no longer a vibrational resonance
Mhm.
at the way in which it was. It doesn't mean that I can't be friends with you, but it means like the way in which we were friends, maybe it just doesn't feel good anymore. Maybe every time I hang, and this is why embodiment is so important. Because when you are embodied, you can really feel yourself, and you can really feel, am I tired when I hang out with this person, or am I energized? Do I feel equal to this person? Do I have resistance to wanting to go? Do I have, like, what are all of the things happening inside of me energetically that's and perhaps pointing me towards where it is spirit or whatever is trying to go, which is the path of least resistance. And I have that also with many clients and family as well, you know. When I started speaking about sexuality, so much of my family looked the other way. And it's really painful because I still feel like I don't have the connection to my family that I did before I started speaking about sexuality. And even though I bring it to them, they're all like, oh, no, that's not true. And I'm like, it absolutely is true. Because when I was speaking about nutrition and I was speaking about yoga, you guys were constantly cheering me on my Facebook lives and connecting and commenting. And yeah, then when I went to sexuality, there really hasn't been much of a conversation. And sometimes, is it painful to lose people that you love? Absolutely. But is it more painful to be in a halfway version of my truth? Absolutely. So you will evolve out, and sometimes people will evolve back in, and sometimes they won't. But the question is, do you trust? Do you trust, like, the depth that you're creating inside yourself will call in deeper connect? I mean, I think about the friends I have today. Wow. Thank goodness I evolved out. I still love the humans that have been a part of my path. I think of them often dearly. And sometimes it was situational. Sometimes I just moved. I moved to India. You know, I've been going to India for 5 years. Oftentimes I would pack up my stuff and just be like, yep, I gotta go. Sorry. But yeah, the love for the person or the people or the family or whoever doesn't go away just because there's no longer a depth of resonance that is truly meeting.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. And I think it will help a lot of people. And in it's a journey, constantly choosing for you. And it's not as black as white that if you meet a friend or your lover and you feel drained and you feel resistance, yeah, sometimes you have to work through things.
Yeah.
But if it's a pattern and it's keeping repeating and you cannot grow and the other you cannot dive in together to resolve it, then it's time to let go. And even if it hurts, and especially in love relationships, people hold on much too long. And on the other hand, we have, of course, different attachment styles. Other people are letting go way too fast because it's scary, intimate, but I think it's you really feel and take time for yourself and feel what's true in your heart, because I think your heart will know and your body will tell you.
If you're connected to your body, she will tell you a lot. And I think this is a huge piece. Like, how connected are we? It's such a practice to be connected to our body when we're trained to be connected to our mind and shame our bodies and disconnect and numb. And yeah, I think this is like the key to everything. Being able to listen to your body and being in your body is essential. So it's like step number one for people that are like, ooh, tantra's a little bit too scary. Okay, practice being in your body.
Yeah.
Then that will bring you closer.
Yeah, and even when I can be in my head really when I'm busy and I have to go outside, I have to or move or go to aesthetic dance to drop in again, or you feel something is stirring, like, hey, there's something but I can't reach it, and you feel there's a grief. I need to move in order to feel it, and otherwise it's keeping me stuck, and I will go eat more, and because my vibration is going low, so I want
or Instagram more or
yes.
whatever it is. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
We all have a different
and
mechanism.
yeah, it is, and I still have it. And even with smoking cigarettes, it's like, oh, okay, I'm feeling too expanded right now. And when I go to a rapid growth, and what do I do to contract myself? Then I will start smoking, and I'm like, okay, why am I doing this? But it's a pattern, and I think just sharing that even I and you have, I think you have patterns for yourself, and just we're human. Yes, so of course we teach people certain things and we help people, but we're also human, and everybody, we're not enlightened. And I think for me, I was searching for more happiness, for more inner peace, for more intimacy. But that means when you open up more, you also feel more grief that's still inside of you, or suppressed anger or frustration. And a lot of people are want to walk away from it. It's like, look at little children when they cry. I will hold them and just be present with it. But if I look at a lot of people still are, oh, you can't cry now. I don't talk to you when you cry. Or a few neighbors last a couple of days ago, and I was like, wow, there's still so much consciousness that will not acknowledge your what is inside your body and how do you feel. Do you have, and so a story, do you have a practice for that, for people who are listening and like, oh, I'm a lot in my head, or I'm a lot on social media, I'm eating too much, or smoking, or drinking a glass of wine every night? What can they do to, in order to feel and be present more, what's alive?
Yeah, it's funny. I just recorded a whole embodiment practice this morning,
Wow.
literally this morning. So there are many, 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 many embodiment practices that I could recommend. But one is simply putting on some music, like 1, 2, or 3 songs that represent, it could represent, maybe you feel like your sadness, you're sad, but you're having a hard time accessing it.
Mhm.
Or maybe you don't know what you're feeling. So putting on very like, not a song that's the intention isn't to shift you out and make you happy again, but the intention is to create a soundscape in the background of a vibrational resonance to what you're feeling, and to just spend 2, 3, 4 songs in presence in your body, feeling, not on your phone, not doing anything, ideally moving, like moving your body. This is what we did this morning on the movement practice, moving your body, feeling into all the places of tension and tightness, and just letting yourself dissolve into the moment, and see if you can access your like breath, use your breath to access different parts in your body more, especially when you go to distract, when you notice yourself, put a timer on your phone for how much you're allowed to be on certain apps. When you notice yourself wanting to go smoke or wanting to go drink another coffee or whatever it is, like, first of all, let me check in, ask myself the question, do I feel like I'm avoiding something? Be really honest with yourself. That question will help you increase your consciousness and will help you start to shift your pattern. If the answer is yes, do I dare to put on a song? And instead of go avoid right now, can I feel it? And that's a brave move. It's a brave move to do. And many times, maybe you'll say, no, I just want my cigarette, or I just want my coffee, or fuck that. And then maybe one time out of the 10 times, you'll say, okay, if you keep asking yourself that question, okay, I will feel for 10 minutes. And then maybe you do it again 10 more times. And then maybe 2 out of the 10 times you start to feel.
Yeah.
And slowly, you'll realize that actually the feeling it is what helps move it, instead of the blocking it or numbing it. And it's a practice. And it's a practice that we get to continue to do every day, including myself.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And where are your coping or escapes?
Yeah, they change. They've changed over the years. They change with where I'm at. They change depending upon what's happening in my life and who's around me. I never smoked never smoked. And then this year, while I was moving through probably one of the hardest portals of my life, yeah, I was living in the city center. Life was really overwhelming. I was around other people who smoked. So it was really easy for that to be my coping mechanism. Thankfully, that's not like, I don't really have an addictive personality. So it was for a period of about 2 months in my life. And now every once in a while I can have a cigarette, like once every 2 weeks or something, for pleasure, which is different than numbing out. Yeah, also social media was one. So I'm really good at catching them, which is really, I've worked on learning to catch them. So social media was one. And yeah, I deleted all of my followers for a period of time. I put a big restriction limit on my phone and chose to get off of it. Maybe another one could potentially be, and the thing is like, with a pattern, or with a numbing, quote, technique, what's important is to realize is, where is the boundary between the thing actually serving me and the thing actually being a shadow pattern. So for instance, like being distracted even by friends and hanging out with friends a lot or something, there's a question there, like, am I choosing to just fill my life because I'm afraid to feel, or am I actually just really enjoying all the lovely friends around me and I'm becoming really nourished?
Yeah.
And so for instance, with me, distracting myself maybe with social obligations could be one, but I actually really like my own time and by myself, so I don't think that's actually playing out in the shadows right now. But yeah, I would say those are kind of some of the things that I get to watch myself or be mindful for. Or work. That used to be a big one for me. I would bury myself in work, and I would like really distract myself with work and with my purpose and my passion. And it was a numbing technique. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I think a lot of people can relate to that, and even my coping mechanisms. I don't drink, so that's one of them. I never had a lot of drink. My body rejects it. So one glass of wine and I'm sick. So
Wow.
beautiful. Yeah. And I did it when I was a teenager, but in the weekends sometimes. And then I started to get hangovers, but really severe with puking. And even when I had just two glasses of wine or two beers, and a beer that I don't like, so it's easier. But it's I really don't like the fact that it narrows down my consciousness, alcohol.
Yeah.
And but also if you stop using substance, no, yeah.
Substances. Yeah.
Thank you.
I got
And yeah, you have alternative spiritual stuff like ayahuasca, mushrooms, rapé. I never used rapé myself, but I hear a lot of people around me who are using it frequently, and so also with that, be mindful if you're spiritual and using anything of the plant medicines that are available. Also be conscious. Do I use it to help me grow, or get it through a process, or that helps me further on my path, or am I numbing again because I want to feel great? So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
yeah,
good questions. Those are good things to ask, because I also see that as well.
yeah, yeah, me too. So I will not use it once because I also heard it's very intense, and I'm like, I did ayahuasca one time and a few times magical mushrooms or truffles for a journey, and I had four totally different journeys with a lot of insights. But then I'm like, I'm enough now. When I go dancing and when I meditate, and even when you tap into the quantum field, you can do everything yourself. And I'm not a magician, and but I really feel, okay, do I want to do it now? Does it help me? Do I want to go break something open? No, I'm not. And but also with those kind of things, really feel, and when it's time for you to do ayahuasca again or a truffle ceremony, you will feel the calling. And just when something pops in my head, okay, thank you, I have the thought, and then I will throw it away. And then the next day, if it comes again, I still throw it away. But if it comes and keeps calling me, then I will decide to do it. And for me, it works fantastic. So wanted to add that as well.
Yeah, that's good advice. Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful.
There was one last question. There's a lot of people in the tantric world. Spirituality, you see a different way. It opens you up consciously. How do you relate personally when you are in a relationship? Do you have still temple nights? Do you play with other people, or are you choosing to explore each other first more deeply? What do you see, and how do you yeah, take that on as a, what's your preference?
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it all comes down to communication and intention.
Mhm.
So first of all, I'm pretty integral. Like I've been in the Tantra world for 5 years now, had many experiences. I have had many flavors of life and sexuality, and I am at a place for me personally, I don't need more experiences. I'm not in a place where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm in a candy store. I want to like, it's a whole new world of candy stores for me. So for me personally, I'm much more grounded and I don't need so much.
Mhm.
Yet if there's a true meeting, if I'm in a space and there's a true meeting, I want to be open to be able to take that if I'm intentional with where it's coming from. But the first thing, if I have a partner, where am I at in the relationship? If I'm at the very beginning, then I probably don't need to. I want to contain it in the beginning and focus on the energy. If I've been with someone for 5 years or longer, then it's like, okay, we've been containing this ship for a long time. Maybe it's actually time for us to explore within a set of boundaries or within a set of agreements that make us both feel good, that are set and rooted in an intention that we both are saying yes to in this experience. We have many people who come to temples and just want to be in the erotic field of other people, but they want to be completely with themselves. And that's totally welcome and fine. Just being in a field of erotic juiciness can reignite a lot inside of a relationship, specifically if it's a monogamous container. And then of course there's options like maybe I want to explore bringing someone into my partnership, like for an experience. Maybe my partner's never had a threesome. Who knows? Maybe that's an opportunity for me to bring a beautiful woman in and give him a gift. Or it really is just about, can I have a conscious conversation about what my intentions and my desires are? And then can I let my partner speak about their intention and desires? And maybe our intentions and desires are different. And that requires another conversation. And then where's the meeting point? But for me, it's always a conversation. And I'm oftentimes facilitating the temple spaces. So as a facilitator, I don't too often immerse myself in the field. And I don't like, actually, I'm quite particular with my sexual energy, who I choose to share it with. And because I've been practicing tantra for so long, there's such a wide field of ways in which I could express my sexuality that, like, for instance, what most people would do, collapse into sexuality. Ooh, yes, I feel this attraction. Let me connect with you. Let me start making out with you. Let me start touching you and rubbing you. Like, that's not, and there's nothing to say that's wrong with that. But that's not how I choose to move. Like, I was in a temple, we had a temple on Friday, and there was one person who I invited back in. We were kind of like testing the waters to see if we were a match. And immediately he like kind of almost went for a kiss. And I'm like, whoa, like I don't even kiss someone. It takes me a long time. Let me breathe with you first. Let me just breathe your air in first before I allow myself to kiss you. And yeah, this is also tantra. We expand everything out. So even the slightest touch of your fingertips can be erotic. And that maybe is my sexual expression with a person, rather than, what most people would think maybe happens in a temple.
Yes, it is more. It reminds me of the last thing I want to share. A conversation I had. I was on a dating app, and I was going to a temple night, and now he was not in that world whatsoever. So he was like, but there's no sex. I said, no penetration, no oral sexuality. Yeah, but that's not sex. And I said, yes, it is. So I was like explaining the fingertip, and he was like, yeah, but so when I'm on a date with you and I touch you on your knee, you can get an orgasm. But people,
depending on how you touch me, yeah.
Yes, I said no. That depends. There are there are more ingredients to it. But I was like, really, people are having difficulty to understand. But it is really like opening up, being more sensitive. The more you are present with your body and your energy field, yeah, magic can happen. And yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. I think it's been beautiful. It's been a beautiful journey, I think, here on the podcast. And I hope that it expands some people's minds around, what it's really all about, what it is and what it is not.
Yes.
and maybe inspire some people to go a little deeper. It's
Yeah.
definitely been a path that's changed my life. I'm sure you could probably say the same. Otherwise, you wouldn't be putting in the life force energy to have these conversations.
No, exactly. No, I think I think there's a lot of healing we can bring, and I don't teach tantra, of course. When I have individuals, I will sometimes give a self-love practice, but that's not my main goal as a coach. So it's I'm very grateful you come on and answered my questions because it can help a lot of people.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's
Yeah.
yeah, beautiful to be here with you. And I know the party you were going to go to on Saturday. I was also going to go. So
Yeah, I know.
yeah, sure
No.
we'll be at another party, a temple party
Yeah.
in the space soon. Yeah.
So, all right. Thank you very much. Is there something else you would like to share that we didn't cover or is popping up?
If people are interested, they can just find me on Instagram. Maybe go to the Amanda Biccum or my website if you have questions, if things that were stirred up here or something stirred anything up in you, questions, curiosities, triggers. I'm super open and happy to have a conversation with anyone who's interested. So just making myself available to those humans. It's nice to connect to people who are in this discovery phase. And if there's anything I or you can do to help them based on our own experience, then that's
Yeah.
why we're here after
Yeah.
all.
Great. Thank you. I will share your website under the YouTube with the description and Spotify, now all kinds of platforms, iTunes, Google Podcast, you name it. You can be fine there. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Lovely speaking with you.
Yes, thank you.
Mhm.